Hello, everybody in Lithuania, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all here and in this conference, Nordic-Baltic Blue Opportunities. I will talk to you for the next 20 minutes, and I will firstly focus on the Norwegian Ocean strategy. And from there, I'm just going to jump into some actions, what we do to implement this strategy. And I'm going to finish off with some examples of our results. So I hope you can hear me and see my slides now. Right, let's just dig into the strategy part then. The ocean industries, and that's really a key word in my presentation here today. It's the single most important industry in Norway. It represents 70% of our export value. And we have been doing this for centuries. So we live by and live off the sea in Norway. There is a national strategic plan, or more, I would say, an ambition established by the government. And you can see it here, and I also think it's available for everyone, and it's reviewed, and it's also been updated. Of our export values, the largest portion today is oil and gas export, offshore oil and gas production and export. And of course, being in the green shift and trying to be compliant with the Paris Agreement, there's a huge change and transition going on in the offshore industries, ocean industries in Norway. So then to go into some more details here, GC Ocean Technology, as Tom presented us, is a global center of expertise in the ocean industry. And really, our strategy is all about how we can reuse and repurpose all knowledge and technology built through decades of oil exploration and oil and gas production in the North Sea. The North Sea has been a test bed for many years. And we also, for the underwater technology or the subsea technology, small Norway of 5 million people controls about between 40 and 50% of the market. Just depends how you count it all up. So really, our strategy is to look into how we can use this, all this knowledge, all this technology, to speed up and develop the next generation offshore industries, being like offshore floating wind, but also tidal and wave energy and the technology behind it. Now, furthermore, also build the technology behind the next generation seafood farms. The seafood farmers in Norway tells us that there's a market for producing 5 times as much seafood as they do today, but they have a lot of challenges. And if we can solve those challenges, this will become a much bigger industry for Norway. And lastly, a bit further down the road, also marine minerals. Marine minerals is a very important topic. The green shift, the green economy, going from the fossil, so to speak, economy, and to a more greener economy requires much more new minerals. It requires more minerals. And this is a shortage in the world market of these minerals. And also it's a geopolitical question because a lot of these minerals are controlled by, it's either in China or controlled by China elsewhere in the world. So we need to find and develop more minerals to keep on moving in the green shift, which of course is important for the whole world. So this is basically what we do. We try then to repurpose the competence and the technology from the oil and gas and the underwater technology to these new upcoming and more sustainable ocean industries for the future. Right, I'm just gonna shortly give you some small examples. What are we talking about here? And I can't go into this list in details, but I can mention a few. When we put more steel, more into the ocean, as we do when we build the next generation seafood farms, we need corrosion protection. We need sensors and monitoring all these structures. We need material competence. We need underwater inspections and so forth. And the same goes for all kinds of offshore installations in harsh environments. All these things we know very well. We've done a lot of research in the oil and gas industry, and we can convert and we can reuse all this competence and also even a lot of the technology in these new industries. So this is what we're working with, and this is just examples of knowledge and technology from the oil and gas industry. Now, we have also done, we spend a lot of our time, maybe this is the biggest area we spend to talk to the industry. Different kinds of people in the industry, top management, senior technical management, business development, personnel, and so forth. And we have done this through many innovation workshops, seminars, meetings, and so forth. And we are doing this on a continuously basis. And the industry have pointed out for the future 3 really important areas where a lot of things will happen, a lot of money will be spent there, a lot of projects will come up, these 3 areas are the ones shown here. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit of each of them. First of all, and then after that I will give you some examples. First of all, it's all about the autonomy, and the autonomy is really the industrial kind of revelation in the sea. It has to do with, we can in a way start with the sensor, start with advanced sensors meant for harsh environments in deep sea and also on the surface, which you collect your data. Then when you have collected your data, you need to gather your data, you need to transport them. So it also has to do with the communication in water. We don't, as probably most of you know, we don't have any Wi-Fi in the sea. So it's more difficult to transport large amounts of data in the sea compared to in the air. And it also then has to do with artificial intelligence, man-machine interfaces. It has to do with business analytics. It has to do with decision-making based upon these data to make all equipment more autonomous. And we're also talking about different degrees of autonomy. We are talking of true autonomy in components, but also a collaboration between different autonomous components that makes totally autonomous systems. So this is a huge area for the future, and in all offshore industries, and very important for the industry in the upcoming years. Now the next one is really has to do with the energy transition, and I'll come back to that with examples too. But it has to do with renewables. It has also to do with all electric components and electrification of the already existing oil and gas installations in the North Sea. And also, of course, transportation and storage of renewable energy. I'll come back to that. Now, lastly, it also has to do with sharing and circular economy. I will also come back to this, but it has to do with storing CO2 to reduce the carbon footprint, but it also has to do with how we share advanced equipment for test and simulation, especially to the benefit for SMEs, smaller companies which on their own can't afford this type of equipment. So we make it available for them so that they can do their production, their test and development of their equipment by making this type of equipment available for them. I also come back to this. So this was on the strategy level. I'm now going to give you some examples here on what we do, but let's just before I do that, I just want to spend 1 minute on what we call the ecosystem for innovation and commercialization. And this is really important because this is how we work with all the different stakeholders and make them work together in this ecosystem to get the most out of it, so to speak. So we work in a way as the facilitator, as the oil and the machinery to make this happen. That's how we work in the industry cluster in GC Ocean Technology. So this model is very important. It's really a direct copy from a model developed by MIT. We have a great collaboration with MIT in Boston, in US, in this field. So also we'll come back to that. Right. So what do we do? One of the big projects we have set up, and it's free for all our member companies to take part in this, is really setting up in a kind of shared economy, together with, in fact, in this case, IBM, setting up a cognitive center where we offer artificial intelligence, software competence, make it available for the different companies across industries, to give them kind of the knowledge and make them have an environment to test out their business and how they can use and implement artificial intelligence in their company. So this is one project we do together with all these other logos, which is in this figure, and it's good because we have to share this competence across all these industries to move fast enough. We don't have enough. We don't have a lot of time. We need to move fast to be competitive. Another example I want to mention for you is how we worked in a project to offer the fish farmers the level of technology and technology usage as we have been doing in the oil and gas industry for decades. So we took a lot of companies, big and small companies, most of them born and raised in the oil and gas industries, and we brought them out to a seafood farm. And the seafood farmers told them about their business, their industry, and they drilled down and told them also about the challenges they had in the industry. And from there, we went down and had workshops to see how the much more kind of technology skilled companies from the oil and gas industry could help out the fish food farmers in solving their challenges. And from there, contract was written between seafood farmers and these high-tech companies. This project is typically financed by GC Ocean Tech, by us in GC Ocean Technology, and offered as a free service to all those who wanted to participate. Just another example. Another example in the energy transition is what we call the Deep Purple project. And no, it's not the famous rock band from my youth. It's really a fascinating project. Just gonna briefly touch it here, but it has to do with storing offshore renewables like offshore wind, which we via electrolysis we store it as hydrogen, and also might store them as in the power in battery at the sea bottom, and we use our knowledge from the subsea oil and gas industry to form the structure on the sea, and from there you can charge ships from charging buoys offshore, or we can transport them in containers or pipelines to land and use it in the industry. So we solved the problem with storing offshore renewable wind by implementing it in this project. So this is an example in the energy transition of projects we set up and how we work with others, both on the research side and huge, of course, very competent companies like TechnipFMC. We also into the northern lines, the long ship, the storing of CO2, the storing of carbon from high carbon producing spots in the industries in Norway. And we also want to make this, we have ambitions to make this as a storage for the whole Europe, to collect carbon, transport them in ships to the western part of Norway, and we pump them down in subsea wells out in the North Sea, and we keep them there. And it's not only waste, it's part of the circular economy, because when the industry is mature enough, we will bring up again the CO2 and use it in a sustainable way for industrial purposes, like the nanotechnology purposes, for instance. But we're not there yet. So in the meantime, we will store it down in these huge subsea wells. I also just want to mention an example of the marine minerals. As mentioned, this could really become a huge industry, and the next huge kind of offshore miracle for Norway. Has the potential to produce more values, a lot of more companies, employees in Norway than offshore renewables. We need these minerals. We need them for the green shift. We haven't cracked all the codes we need to explore and produce this from the sea bottom. We need to do that, or everything we do needs to be sustainable. But I believe, and the industry believe, that we soon will be there. So this will be possible within maybe, I don't know, it's hard to say, but 5, maybe 10, 15 years ahead of us. It's a very important area which we are looking into, and the green shift needed. I mentioned that we worked with MIT. We also work with MIT to bring up the next huge companies, the next Norwegian members on the Fortune 500 list, and we do that by working and trying to find and identify the most successful entrepreneurs. 5 years down after an entrepreneur have started its company, but 5 years later, 80% of the entrepreneurs are gone. Now, of the last 20%, 80% of them again is still a handful, only a handful number of people. So we want to find the gold. We want to find those companies which has whatever it takes. You can't really measure this. This is the art of business. But the ones that have the right management, the right technology, the right whatever, the right attitudes and so forth, and bring them up and help them, bring them the best mentors in the world, bring them national mentors, bring them international mentors, help them with the capital they need to grow, and ensure that these grow to their full potential. We have this program. We work together with BI in Oslo, and we have a great collaboration with BI and also a great collaboration with MIT. And we run this program every autumn, and we have been doing it for 3 years. We're going to start a 4th program now, and it's really great. It lasts for 3 months, so it really requires a lot of attention, a lot of effort from those companies who are participating. And we spend a lot of resources in finding the right companies, those which have the potential, whatever it means. So this is also something we spend a lot of time in doing to bring up the next generation of ocean industry in Norway. Just want to mention briefly, we are also part of starting these huge test centers which we call the category centers. It's really an idea we have copied from the UK. We have 5 of these centers today. The center which we are part in is in Bergen in Norway, and what it offers to SMEs and all companies, it's advanced 3D metal printers which these companies can't afford themselves. We make these available for them. It's also a hyperbaric high pressure chambers test facilities, which we can test equipments down to 700,000 bars, which covers the deepest of the deepest in the ocean of the world. And we also offer them what we call a recirculating aquaculture system test site. That's a seafood farm on land, which is a pretty advanced piece of technical equipment, a lot of components, where these companies then can develop their own technology, which they want to offer to the markets. I'm gonna finish this with just some results of this crossover activity. And I first want to mention also the institute or the company behind the Hyperbaric Test Center. They now have a collaboration with the largest, some of the largest hospitals in Norway in treating stroke patients, and also patients with different lung and breathing disabilities. So this is just, and we use technology then developed and tested from the oil and gas industry to give these patients a better treatment and higher probability for recovering and from the disease. Just an example. We also have other examples where we have where we use sensors developed in the oil and gas industry, which we now repurpose. We reuse both the competence and major parts of the sensors themselves in surveillance of offshore floating windmill parks. We also use them in building advanced tunnels for gas detections and so forth. Another example is a company born and raised in the oil and gas industry, Monviro, using their technology from safeguarding offshore installations on the seabed now to monitor areas vulnerable for earthquakes. So that's another example. Third example is Scantrol Deep Vision, which has developed a subsea camera systems for the oil and gas industry, and now use the same technology to identify both species and sizes on the species, the length of the fish, and they sort it before the fish enter the trawl. Now, remember, in the old trawls, you just fish what you find and you take it up, and maybe 50% of what you take up, you're not allowed to fish even. So by doing this, you only fish what's allowed to fish, and everything else you keep alive and you keep down there. So it's a much more sustainable way of sustainable wild fishing. And another example of how we can use technology from the oil and gas industry in the new upcoming industries. All this you can find, and many more examples, on the report called techtransfer.no, which is open. A lot of examples you can look into there. So I guess that was all for me. So thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference. And then I guess it's back to you, Tom.